Remember when the strangest family on television made gothic weirdness feel like completely normal domestic life? A network took a chance on a household where the unusual was ordinary and nobody understood why the neighbors kept their distance. What appeared on screen was strange enough, but what happened behind the cameras was somehow even stranger. Stay with us until the very end, because the truth behind that iconic gliding walk will change how you watch every single scene. The creepy mansion that opened every episode was actually a real Victorian building in Los Angeles. It filmed for exactly one episode before the production switched to a painted image with added floors and a Gothic tower. Most viewers never noticed. The real building was later demolished for a school parking lot. The only thing left today is a decorative street lamp. One beloved cast member had lived through Hollywood's most consequential legal battle before the show ever began. As a child star he earned millions, but when he grew up he discovered nearly everything was gone, spent by family members. What made it worse was that it was entirely legal. Child performers had no claim to their own earnings. The public outrage pushed California to create protected trust accounts for child actors, a law that still protects young performers today. The actor who became the fast-talking enthusiastic heart of the show originally auditioned for the slow, silent butler, possibly the greatest casting mismatch in television history. The producers recognized this immediately and handed him a different role with no fixed definition, telling him essentially to build it himself. What he invented became genuinely singular. None of it was scripted. He created it entirely from scratch. The butler himself was originally written with zero dialogue. He was a silent background fixture. That lasted until the pilot episode, when the actor made a spontaneous decision and simply opened his mouth. 2 words came out in a voice that sounded like it originated somewhere considerably underground. The room responded immediately. Producers rewrote the character on the spot. 2 completely unplanned words changed everything. The family's pet lion was entirely real. A retired circus lion appeared on set attended by a full-time trainer at all times. The child actors were banned from set whenever the lion was present, no exceptions. And most of what audiences actually saw on screen was recycled stock footage anyway. The most logistically complicated cast member had the lightest workload of anyone in the production. The iconic theme music was recorded on almost no budget. The composer arrived to discover the production company refused to pay for backup singers. So he recorded his own voice 4 separate times and layered them together until he had built an entire choir out of stubbornness and overdubs. The finger snaps were personally choreographed by him on set, with specific instructions for each actor. The 2 leads were directed to look completely unbothered while doing it, the most accurate character direction ever given on a television set. The mansion's interior, which appeared soaked in shadow and darkness, was actually built using pink walls, red tones, and turquoise. Black and white television made dark colors collapse into each other, so the art department used entirely wrong colors that read perfectly on screen. The performers wore green and purple makeup that looked alarming in person and gothic perfection on camera. Parts of the set were not even built, they were pulled from studio warehouse storage and repurposed from other productions. The family's famous names did not exist for decades. The original cartoonist published these characters in a major magazine for years without naming any of them. When names were finally needed for a doll collection, 2 were created. One came directly from the word for a funeral professional. The other came from a nursery rhyme about a child born on a sorrowful day of the week, which explains the entire character in about 5 words. The remaining names were not settled until the show itself was already in production. The show only existed because of a race against a competing network. 2 networks independently developed the same basic premise simultaneously without knowing about each other. Both rushed to air. One beat the other by less than a week. Both found audiences, but underneath the surface similarity they were doing completely different things. One show was about monsters desperate to fit in and failing. The other was about a family so comfortable with itself that fitting in had simply never occurred to them as a goal worth pursuing. When a major competing program launched directly against one of them, ratings collapsed immediately, and both spooky family comedies were cancelled within months of each other. The character hidden inside a full hair suit was originally costumed in real human hair, highly flammable, extremely heavy, on a set where crew members smoked between every take and stepped on still-burning cigarette ends without thinking. Producers looked at this situation, looked at the costume, and switched to synthetic fire-retardant material before something irreversible happened on camera. The new version was safer but still suffocatingly hot, and the actor inside navigated every scene almost completely blind, hoping whatever he walked into next was his mark and not a wall. The version of the daughter character that popular culture considers the original is actually a later reinvention. The 1964 television version was genuinely warm and sweet. She smiled, she danced, she helped adults cheerfully. The braids and dark dress were there, but the personality was entirely different. A 1991 film transformed her into something cold, precise, and deadpan in a way that suggested she had considered all possible outcomes and found them uniformly disappointing. Every version since has been built from that blueprint, including the most recent streaming adaptation. The actor who became one of the show's most unforgettable figures was told on his first audition that he simply was not strange enough for the role. He went home, shaved his head, shaved his eyebrows, and built the entire visual identity of the character himself using nothing but the original cartoons as reference. Other actors had used temporary prosthetics. He simply did it. His wife watched the transformation and began to cry. He walked back into the audition room fully formed and the production team had absolutely nothing left to say. The man told he was not unusual enough had created the character entirely on his own terms. And finally, that smooth, effortless glide that made the lead female character seem like she had simply arrived from another dimension, was not a performance choice. The gown was designed to be skin-tight and specifically restrict movement. Small controlled steps were not elegance. They were the only option the dress permitted. The wardrobe team added fasteners just to allow movement between takes, and removing the costume at the end of each filming day took nearly 20 minutes on its own. What looked supernatural on screen was the wardrobe department announcing that the question of how she would move had been settled and was no longer open for discussion. And that is a wrap. Drop a comment with the fact that surprised you most, like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.